Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments now. All right, I have good news to share today. And the good news that I have to share today is we received a VAWA approval just 2 days ago. We're very happy about this. And the reason we're very happy about this, of course, is during these times, our clients need to have protection. Our client has now protection along with her children. She will get her. So we already got her social security number. The next thing is we're going to get her 2-year work permit. We're going to start getting notifications that they'll start processing her green card, so her 10-year green card application. She will be put into a protected status, so she will not be deported. When somebody's granted a VAWA, it means that they are put into deferred action. They're protected from removal until their green card is processed. So, and my client, which is very important to her, my client's children, because when we applied, her children were under 21, her children will now be able to get their green cards along with her here in the US, all without leaving, all without, and do you see, this is available, guys. We are getting decisions. I just got an interview notice. They are still processing these applications. And the people who are in the best position are those who know they qualify for this and they go for it. Sitting down and doing nothing is not going to make you protected. They are using certain policies to back people up against the wall. And I know that can't be a good feeling. However, my job is to find solutions. And the way that I'm taking action to be able to help people is to evaluate their options, their legal options. The administration is focused on those who are not here legally. If you are able to then put forth an application that showing that you do qualify to legally stay here in the United States, they will grant that. They are currently granting that now. So keep that in mind. I wanted to share this good news. So in this particular case, our client went from the marriage-based process to the VAWA process because her spouse began to mistreat her as well as her children. So we were able to act very quickly because he was doing exactly that, threatening to cancel her papers on her, to get her deported. So we acted very quickly and we went ahead and transferred her case from a marriage based case to a VAWA case. But here's the deal. I often say this, yes, we jump up and we get this done for our client, but I would rather you not be in a situation where you know your process, your marriage-based process is being sabotaged, because that turns into an urgent issue and it turns into a complex issue. So I always say, read the red flags. And if you feel like you need to empower yourself by pursuing the VAWA process instead of staying with your spouse, act now. Don't wait until they are threatening you, they're writing to immigration. I've had cases where the spouse secretly wrote to immigration and had their process canceled, because they do have the power to do that. It's their petition, the US citizens petition. They secretly go ahead and do that. Meantime, they're still enjoying the benefits of marriage and continuing to abuse the spouse. The spouse thinks that their papers are still going through when it has been canceled, right? And because of that, it lengthens. They don't have any protection because now the process is canceled, and they continue to believe they have power over you, and you think you have to wait until they're ready to file the papers for you. But if they're mistreating you, then it's time to empower yourself by thinking about going to the VAWA process. Now, here's the deal too. I not only work on VAWA, VAWA is just one of the forms of relief. There are other types of relief, right? If you want to be able to not get married, a lot of people say, is there any way to be able to get my papers without marriage? Absolutely. How do we know? We have helped our clients to do that. Our clients that don't want to subject themselves to the mercy of somebody who they're set up to get married, which that's illegal, by the way. So you don't want to do that in the first place. They don't have to put up with that. They can empower themselves by applying for themselves. So if you are here and you want to be able to get your papers to stay legally here in the United States, it's time to give us a call so we can look at the number of options that we can help our clients with. But you're not going to know if you qualify unless we talk to you. And we start to make it easier so that we don't waste your time and money. We start with a free initial evaluation, and that helps us to first see, are there any options that we can help you with? If there are, then we go ahead and we start to work on strategy with our attorneys here at ST Law Office. So, and in order to help, in order to provide as services to as many people as we can. We have multiple attorneys that work very closely with me that are doing these strategy sessions, talking to people about how they qualify and moving forward. So this is where you need to get in touch. So don't wait, schedule now. All right. So another piece of news that I saw, which is disturbing, is the fact that there are no, so, they've uh, had contracts. The US government has had created contracts with other countries, Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador. Now they are planning to send immigrants to Libya. So, yes, they do have courts around the country are putting a hold on deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. However, what's happening now is that they are not deporting under the Alien Enemies Act. If an immigrant cannot be sent back to their own country is not safe for them, or their own country will not accept them, then what they're doing is they're looking for other countries that says they will accept people who are not from their country. So they have been looking at a number of countries to do that. So Rwanda was one of them. I mean, I can't even believe I'm talking about this, but it sounds like they could start deporting people who can't go back to their own country this week. The plan is to start it this week and send people to the war-torn country where there's documented slavery. They are going to send them to Libya, right? So I do anticipate there's going to be aggressive litigation against this. And once again, it goes back to due process, right? If they're here in the country and the government has found that they cannot be deported to their own country, and a judge has found that they should stay in the US under something like withholding of removal or CAT, then they're being deprived or denied their due process rights by just picking them up and sending them out of the country. So I do anticipate that we're going to see a fight here as well. But this is very, very disturbing. But right now, what I'm saying, it's good that we're aware of the news, what's going on. It's important for you to empower yourself with knowledge. But what I work on are the solutions. And so I'm going to continue to work to help people to be able to apply to stay here legally so that things like that don't have to be a possibility that you're worried about, that you have sleepless nights about. So give us a call. That's where we are putting our energy right now. And I really, really have been proud of me and my team, because me and my team have worked really hard. We just got the notification that our client that was detained is now safe at home with his family again. And so we're changing lives one person at a time. And we are fighting for our clients, and we are really standing for our clients. And we've seen the fruits of our labor just in the past week. So many decisions, so many approvals have come in, especially where our clients have been told it's impossible, and even where our clients are being detained. And let me tell you this, our clients are, so far we've been successful at helping our clients to be released from detention or to get bond from detention, just because they are our clients and they have pending relief. So they have T visas, or they have a T visa that they qualify for. And we're able to let the judge know this, and the judges are taking this into consideration. Now, every judge is different, every case is different, the considerations are going to be different. But in these cases, we have shown the court that our clients do qualify for certain relief under the law, and that has assisted in the consideration of the judge to grant bond, and even for ICE to release the client on their own without even a bond. So keep that in mind. And don't wait until things get stressful, because when it gets stressful, it's hard to find an attorney. The advantages that our clients have had is we were already there, so they already could pick up the phone, call us, let us know what's going on, and we were able to then act in the best interest of our clients to be able to get them released or apply for relief for them. So don't wait. Make sure that you are looking at the options that you qualify for. All right. So now I'm going to answer some questions. So put your questions in the comments, and I'm going to go ahead and answer. Hello. So I'm going to start on Instagram, and I'm going to work my way around. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so what do you think about my case being outside the processing time? If your case is outside of the processing times, then you can pursue options like you can put in a case inquiry. Sometimes in cases, you can file it with a federal court to be able to review why the delay is happening. And the judge, if the judge finds it justified, the judge can order the USCIS to go ahead and make a decision. Oftentimes, the USCIS will even settle because they don't want to go through the problems, the hassle of the litigation. So they will then take action on the case. But you would really have to start with an appointment for us to evaluate what the situation is and why there's a longer processing time. I call them to inquire for my status through marriage green card, and the USCIS told me that my case is outside processing time, and I forgot to mention that 2 months they waived my interview. Yeah, so just you'd have to then look at the options, the additional options to. Sometimes the case inquiry works alone. If the USCIS is telling you your case is outside processing times, then follow up with them and see if they're willing to put in a case inquiry. Maybe they already have, and it's just a matter of waiting. Can my US citizen spouse bring expired driver's license to green card interview? That's the only identification she has. So, um, I'm not your attorney, and I can't give you personalized legal advice, especially when the stakes are so high in regards to this interview. Usually, they will not accept an expired driver's license. That's usually the case. If you have an alternate identification, like a passport, that would be a better form of identification. So if you use a passport, then that a valid current passport that can work as well. Good evening. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I applied for Tyson Food Work visa online, but no response. So that is outside of my scope. Blessings and more, my lady. Keep on doing what you're doing. Respect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to keep going, keep fighting for my clients. If my spouse have two dependents that are not his kids, can he still file for me? Yes. Be wary of the affidavit of support. Um, that's where if he has two dependents that he files for on his tax returns, then they're going to be added to his household size, and so he has to count them in the household size when he's looking at his income requirements for the year. So I'd say that's where the concern would be. We're located in Delray Beach, Florida. We do represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. That's our home base is Delray Beach, Florida, but we represent clients all over the country and the globe. My husband filed for my daughter from 2023, and we haven't heard anything about the case yet. But I've received my green card. So you need to get in touch with them first to figure out what the status is. Is it that it's in the decision phase? I wouldn't be able to say anything without knowing much more. How long does it take from a marriage to sponsoring your spouse legally? So I would say it's 10 to 12 months, but with now they're implementing new processes that are inevitably going to delay the process. So now it's going to be longer, right? So they're checking people's social media accounts, going through extra screening, and we can expect longer. And that happened in Trump 1.0 as well. So we can expect it now to be extended to maybe a year and a half. Can you still get married when your J1 is about to expire? No, yes, generally. I don't know what your situation is, and that's where it's so important. Before you do anything, consult an attorney. You can always give us a call and we can evaluate your options and advise. But please, before you take action, make sure you're guided. The J1 visa, sometimes that comes with a 2-year foreign residency requirement. So when I hear J1, I think about that. Not every J1 has that 2-year foreign residency requirement, but if you do have it, it means that you can't simply adjust status until you're outside of the country for 2 years, at least 2 years, and then they will allow you to then go through the process, the green card process with your spouse to go to another status, which in this case would be the green card. There is a waiver that we can apply for to be able to get that waive, but that takes time and you can't apply for adjustment of status until you get that waiver granted. So I don't know what your situation is. I'm not saying you do have the 2-year foreign residency requirement, but if you do, then it's going to definitely put a wrench in your plans to get married and then adjust status here in the US. How long does VAWA take? 2.5 to 3 years. And then they spend about 6 months to another year processing the green card stage. My VAWA approved from August and RFE for medical from December, but nothing since then. So yes, it's probably gonna take time. Thank you so much, Frederick. I appreciate that, the love there. Yes, we're very happy for our client, and my client's success is my success. So that's how I look at it. If my spouse have 3 dependents, can he still file for me? Yes, but he has to watch his income. All right. Hello there on Facebook, YouTube. Hi there. Is it still okay to adjust in the US if your child is a US citizen? If your child is a US citizen, age 21 or older, and that child then sponsors you, yes. And as long as you enter the country with a visa, then you should be okay there. But as always, I'm not your attorney and I can't give you personalized legal advice. So what I would say is always check first. You can always give us a call, schedule an appointment, and then we can walk you through this. Nothing about immigration here is going to be simple. Do not let these document preparers, so-called immigration specialists that probably don't even have certifications, do not let them fool you, because they are the ones that are going to put anything on your application. And then when you go in, you're left all by yourself to deal with the issues they put on your application. So one, always be aware of what your application says. We step by step we send the documents to our clients to review every time before we submit it, so they see and agree with everything in the application. And then also consider who's doing your documents. And this, in these times, you need a lawyer. I'm just going to say that straight up. You need a lawyer, an experienced immigration lawyer that can guide you through the process and be able to make sure that you do meet the requirements and that you can be successful throughout the process. All right. So now I'm on. Hi there, Erica. Thanks so much. Okay. Good afternoon. Hi there. It's nice to see you. Okay. Did a juvenile application for my nephew 3 months ago and no response. So I think this might be the SIJS, and it does take a while. So you're not gonna get in 3 months. You may get sometimes it takes a while and then you get the decision. So you could be waiting for at least a year for that. Asking a question after I-485 interviews, the I-130 approved same day, but I-485 doesn't, and it's 26 days. They may need something else from you. So check on just give them a call, see if there's anything else that needs to be done. Make sure they haven't sent any correspondence about any further documentation they need from you. The good news is when they approve the I-130, I think that's the hardest part. Now, if you do have anything in your background that could stop you from getting adjustment of status, that is going to hold up the I-485, right? Because the I-130 focuses on your relationship. I don't know if this is a marriage based, but if it's marriage based, family based, the I-130 says, yes, we evaluated your relationship and we believe it's real and true and you qualify for the green card. Now, let's look at whether you qualify for adjustment of status to actually get the green card. And there they're looking at, how did you enter the US? What's your background? Do you have anything disqualifying in your background, like a criminal record? Do you have immigration violations other than an overstay, if in certain cases, in family base, certain family base? So if you're the immediate relative of a US citizen, overstays don't count. Any other categories, overstays do. So they look at all of that. They look at your medical, they look at your affidavit of support, and then they make the decision based on those technical characteristics, criteria that they're looking at. So there may be an issue where they're reviewing something there. It may be the background check, maybe your medical, maybe your affidavit of support, maybe there's a disclosure there that they haven't they need more information from you. And once again, they're doing additional screening, so you have to look at that. They're looking at social media accounts as well. So if it goes for a certain, like, for about 4 months, then you can contact them and find out what's going on. You can contact them now. I would contact them now just to see if there was any request for evidence or correspondence sent out. Sometimes they approve it, but they haven't updated the I-485. So maybe that could be the case too. Check to see, call them and verify the decision on the case processing time status update is the same as what they actually decided. How long after marriage can you file for your spouse? Right away. So you can file right away, but here's the deal. Don't file until you know that you've created a strong application. And this is where I encourage you to get representation. Give us a call, because we want to that's where we can really advise you on where you are, what you need, how you need to proceed with your application. So I always use this example. I say, if you went to Vegas, you had the time of your life, you met the love of your life on Friday. You arrived Friday, you met them Friday night, you had a whale of a time. By Sunday, you decide that you're going to get married, and you do get married. Would you file those papers on Monday? You could. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't file those papers on Monday, but would you? Is that a good idea? Would you even be prepared to do that by Monday? Probably not. And it's not a good idea to do that, right? Because then you just be filling out forms and sending it in, maybe with some Vegas photos, which it would be more of a red flag to the officers than approvable. So that would bring more scrutiny. So what you would do is you would st- between the two of you, you would then figure out, okay, who's gonna move where. If you're from California and your spouse is staying in New York, is your immigrant spouse then going to move to California with you? Or are you going to then find a place in New York to go settle with them there in New York? How are you going to divide up your bills? How are you going to adjust a married life? Are you going to plan a family get-togethers? These are the things that you should be spending the next month and two just making sure that you're getting together. Just ordinarily being married, you have to start putting those things together. And then you would file after you have all those documents. So how long T visa takes to approve? I would say a year and a half right now. F1 visa asylum case from 2016, first time interview, May 2025. Will I get a GPS tracker? GPS tracker is not in every case. It really depends. Usually it's for those who have been, sometimes they've been released from ICE, and if they feel like they're a flight risk, they may give them a GPS tracker. So it may that's not a surety, but I don't know what the situation is in your case. And if you have a valid current F1 visa, the asylum doesn't negate the F1 visa, so you may still have status. Now, bringing up the T visa, how long does it take to be approved? I'd say 18 months, so get on it. I remember 18 months ago, I would talk about this and I would tell people that if we have a certain conditions, like, because I was talking about Project 2025, I believe around this time last year, I was talking about Project 2025 and what immigration would look like. And I told people that if you qualify for your benefits, call us, let's look at it and get in touch. Well, my clients who did just that are winning now, right? Because they're now getting their protection at just on time. So I would say this, that it's not too late, right? Clearly, we and my colleagues are getting approvals, which means that the relief is still there. So do not, one, be fooled by people saying that this doesn't exist anymore, you shouldn't apply. It exists. We are doing it. We are getting these forms of relief for our clients. But you are not going to be protected unless you take action to stay legally, to seek legal relief and legal status. So this is where I say, take action, because 18 months from now, you could be the person then signing relief saying, you have your papers, your family has papers, because with your T visa, your children under 21 and unmarried, your spouse, your parents, if you are under 21 and your sibling, if unmarried sibling under 18, if you're under 21, can get those papers. And if your relatives are also under threat, because the TV says for victims of trafficking. And we've had situations where the employer has extended the threat to their family. So we will not only get you deported, but we're going to seek out your family members in your home country. And you know we can get away with things like that in your home country, right? We can attack, find your family and get rid of them. That is a threat that could qualify your relatives regardless of your age, whether you're 21 or 20, under 21 or not. Your parents, your siblings, your nieces and nephews, the family members that are being threatened can get the relief as well. Now, the T visa, when you hear victims of trafficking, one thing I do want to let you know is we often, and before I started to really practice in this area, I thought of trafficking as what we see on the movies. It's sex trafficking, it's people being locked up in a basement, being forced to do acts against their will, being sold. And yes, that does happen. Unfortunately, it does exist. However, trafficking comes in different forms. And trafficking is you are working for an employer that withholds your pay or withholds some of your pay, because they know if they keep withholding your pay, you're going to keep working. You're going to keep working to get to, in hopes of getting your pay. That's on, and you're not willingly doing that, but you have to keep going because now you've worked so much money that you're unable to access. So your employer leverages that situation to keep you working. That, my friends, is labor trafficking, right? They don't even, in a case like that, they don't even have to threaten you, but the fact that they're withholding your pay is a form of coercion. It's saying, you're not going to get this pay unless you keep working. And then you keep working, and the cycle just continues and it just keeps you in that cycle. So that is trafficking. There's no physical violence, there are no police involved. It's just you being trapped in a cycle that you cannot escape, because you are in fear that if you leave, you won't get your money. And guess what? If you don't get your money, you're unable to pay your bills, you're unable to support your family, you are unable to stay in your home. So they know that if they hold on to your money, that you're going to keep working because you fear those bad consequences. If you're in a situation where they start to use your status against you, they start to say things like, who do you think you are, wanting your full pay? No, you're not getting your full pay because you don't have your papers. I can actually get you deported. That is a form of trafficking. So I often say this because I don't want you to count yourself out, because so many times we have gotten relief for our clients that thought they could not qualify because another attorney told them they couldn't qualify for anything. The attorney didn't even touch on issues like this. But what I often say is, if you are here, you can remember a time since you've been here in the US that you were stuck in a cycle like that, whether it's with family, whether it's with friends, acquaintances, an employer, an intimate partner, where they forced you. The point of this is, did they force you to do an act that you would not have voluntarily done had it not been for whatever that person did? If you weren't willing to do something, but they convinced you through a lie, or they convinced you through coercive actions like hostile actions, then you need to give us a call, because that could be trafficking that you endured. And because a lot of us are not educated about trafficking, we fail to identify it. And sometimes we fail to identify that you have failed to understand that you have endured trafficking. That's why I educate people about what trafficking is, so that If you see anybody who's in that situation, you can spot they're in trouble. And also, you can identify that you're in trouble and you do have rights. Okay, so give us a call. And let's start there with an initial evaluation. The T visa does result in 4-year visa with your work permit that comes automatically, and then your family, your spouse, your children under 21 and unmarried also can get it. And if you're under 21, not only does your spouse and children get it, but your parents can get it, and your sibling who is under 18 and unmarried can get it too. All right. How long does it take when a mother sponsors unmarried child? The mother is a green card holder. So I'm thinking this is unmarried child. So 5 to 7 years. And a lot of people who have already overstayed their visas, I think a lot of people are running and applying for this, thinking just having an I-130 petition can get them their green card. But it's much more complicated than that. And that's where I definitely say, get in touch. Let's look at what option you're looking at and what options there are else that what other options are there in case that will not work. Because if you are a son or daughter 21 or over, then it's going to be a 5 to 7 year process. And the thing is, during those 5 to 7 years, you have to maintain your legal status. So you can't overstay your visa. And you have to have a current priority date to be able to get to the green card. Well, that takes to have a current priority date, that's like a wait list that lasts 5 to 7 years. To get to that point, right, where you are ready, they're ready to process you for the green card, you have to be at the top of that wait list. But undoubtedly, you're going to be waiting 5 to 7 years for that. And you can't possibly keep your status going for that long unless maybe you have H-1B, which can go 6 years, and it can be, it can go up to 6 years. Or if you have if you have another type of visa like an E-2 visa that you can continuously renew, then maybe you have a shot here. But you have you have to have current legal status and be at the top of the wait list to be able to get to the green card, which many people can't do that in this category. Say that you were filing and they put hold to investigate the person that was filing. So you're in danger zone here, because if they're investigating the person who's doing the filing, it either means that they have a conviction that prohibits them from sponsoring an immigrant, or they're potentially looking at your case for fraud. So you definitely need to get an attorney involved or talk to your attorney to make sure you fully understand what the implication of the investigation is. It's been 9 months now, and I don't hear. So um, keep in mind that the processing times take a long time, and it takes a while. So in most cases, it's the decision to get the decision is going to take more than 9 months in most cases. It's been 1 year. I applied I-130, but still didn't approve. Okay, so I-130s can take 9 to 12 months, but keep in mind it can take longer depending on the category. So if you're in a different category where you're the son or daughter of a US citizen, 21 or older, or you're the married son or daughter of a US citizen, then you could be looking at maybe a 1.5 to 2 year process, because they're not in a rush to make a decision on the I-130s, because that whole process can take 5 to 7 years already. So they don't prioritize the decisions for those. Usually where I see the 9 to 12 months decision on the I-130 is where it's the immediate relative of a US citizen, spouse, parent, child of a US citizen. I submitted RFE on April 1st, 2024, but never hear back. I have prima facie. So yeah, they're probably still considering it, or it's in line for consideration. You really have to get in touch with them or talk to your attorney to do a follow up. Are they opening cases I-130, those who applied in February through March 2024? Is this true? So they can always go back to an I-130, reopen it if they believe that there's some fraud or some mistake that was made in order to do a reconsideration. So that is a possibility. As for mass, we're going to see a lot more of those, by the way. Yes, we're going to see, but they have announced this for asylum seekers and refugees who are now applying for green cards, that they're going back and reviewing these cases to determine whether there's any fraud involved in those cases. We can expect that they will be increasing these reopening of cases to investigate. We're going to see that more. But have there been mass openings of I-130s or mandatory reopening of I-130s? I have not heard that. Do you think they do away with birthright citizenship? So the Supreme Court is going to hear this in believe mid-May. So the hearing is coming up. It really has been a tradition for the Supreme Court to always side with the birthright citizenship, that anybody who's born here is a U.S. citizen. Are we going to see that go away? I would say not based on previous precedent, but this Supreme Court is definitely a special court. So they have made decisions that have been contrary to tradition. For example, basically repealing Roe v. Wade, which has been basically gave women constitutional right to choice. So we might, who knows what can come up. I believe, based on my own legal expertise, that they are going to say that no, you can't just say that any child who's born here is not a US citizen. But we'll see. I'll definitely keep you posted. Okay, so the number is 561-405-4889. You can go to the link in the profile and you'll be able to go to the website. You'll see everything there to contact us. You can call, you can fill out the form, and then we'll definitely get back in touch with you. Um, Prosecutorial discretion and joining a motion to reopen and dismiss. So this doesn't sound like a complete sentence. So I don't know if you're saying if your attorney has applied for prosecutorial discretion and if they're asking for a joint motion to reopen. That yes, that is a possibility. That still is an option on the table. If you've had an approved, if you can show that you are qualified for this kind of relief, and the ICE attorneys agree to it, then this can take place. If they don't agree, then you'd have to submit a motion to the court to reopen and then terminate the proceedings. I went to the marriage interview now, and 68 days. It's now been 68 days. What should I do? You can always give them a call and check to see have they issued any correspondence, make sure it went to the right place. Okay, so I notice people are on here giving advice. Please don't do that because we don't want anybody listening to, what I call village lawyers. That's where the problems start to begin with. So please do not get in touch with people on here that are trying to lure you to contact them. They'll do your case. Do not listen to any kind of advice being given on here. Make sure you're talking to an immigration attorney. You can always give us a call. But for also to protect people here, I need to remind you about that because there are people that will solicit on here. So please don't contact anybody and pay for services here. That's not what this is here for. How not to get your phone confiscated returning to the U.S. So they now where they confiscate your phone, and that's where they will take your phone, is if you do refuse access to the phone, then they can hold your phone for a while, and I go through their process of pulling information off the phone. But if you do agree to access on your phone, then it it's less likely that would happen. However, you do have to. So we have to talk about the right of the officer to do that, except for New York, because there was litigation in New York about this. So in New York airport, they cannot take your phone. So the JFK, I believe, the JFK is a specific airport. They cannot take your phone without a warrant. They can't search your phone without a warrant. But it has been agreed across courts that they do have the right to a reasonable search, and looking at your phone is considered a reasonable search. The Supreme Court found that that was a reasonable search. They're not allowed to look at your work email, but everything else they can look at. So one measure is if you have Face ID, then obviously they can open the phone with your face, and they can do that. So you make sure that if you want to ensure that your rights are protected and that you are in a position to give the officer permission, you need to take the Face ID off. Also, keep in mind that um, they can they can look at even deleted applications, deleted information. So it's very important that you understand what's on your phone, how will it affect you, and then decide whether it's something that you want to bring with you on that trip, given the risk involved, because they can look at your social media. They can look at certain deleted information on your phone. If it's not completely deleted from the phone or wiped away from the phone, they do have ways to get those back. So it really is a matter of not uh, knowing your rights, knowing what you can and can't do, but it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to prevent them from looking at your phone altogether, right? If you have the device with you, they can do that with very few limits. Yeah, so unfortunately, that's the case right now. Went for my biometrics February 4th, 2025. How long until I get an interview? I applied for N600. So that depends. It really depends. I would say those are going a year and a half. Even though they're supposed to be urgent, this is supposed to be something that is granted in 2-3 months, especially if the N600 is based on age requirements and age cutoff dates. It's really supposed to be a shorter process, but we're seeing anywhere from a year to a year and a half. So make sure you're applying way before any kind of age cutoffs. How long it's going to take to approve VAWA? So I would say 2.5 to 3 years. How long it's going to take to approve VAWA? So I answered that. Went for biometrics February 4th. So I answered that. Will mail fraud affect someone? Because with USCIS, even if it was expunged over 30 years, it could. Believe it or not, it could. Here's the deal. When it comes to expungement of your criminal record, it does not apply to immigration. You still have to disclose it. So please don't make the mistake of thinking that because it's expunged, you don't have to disclose it. You must disclose it. And because if you don't, then, they could accuse you of misrepresentation. So that's one thing. Just make sure you understand that. Can mail fraud affect someone? It can, just depending on the statute, what are the facts involved. It can even fall under an aggravated felony if the victim had a loss of $10,000 or more. And if you were sentenced to more than a year in jail, that can definitely affect you and cause you to become deportable. Here's what I say when it comes to criminal records. This is how we treat it here at the law firm. We need to do research. We need to understand the facts. We need to review your records, review the court records, review the state statute, and then look at it on the, make sure I'm looking at it on the, under immigration, under the INA, to determine whether the statute, whether the facts match anything that's going to cause you to be deportable or inadmissible. That's a process that we have to follow. And so the first thing you need to do is you have a criminal record that you're worried about. You need to make sure you get in touch with an attorney to be able to advise you about specific consequences, risk that you face based on the conviction. It's very important that you understand that this, even though we do an initial 30-minute evaluation to see what we can do to be able to strategize, really and truly, it's going to take us reviewing your case in detail to be able to let you understand what the implications are. How long they're going to take to make a decision on my I-485 forms, adjustment of status, after they receive my RFE, since 62 days. So they don't have a set date. I mean, I would say after 120 days, that's when you follow up. Can you travel with a green card outside the country and be able to return? I am saying this: green card holders do have the right to travel, absolutely. However, there are increased risks now that green card holders are going to face increased scrutiny, just like visa holders. So that means coming back, you may be put in secondary inspection. They may want to look at your phone, they may want to look at your devices. So they may have additional questions to verify your identity, and that can be nerve-wracking, right? So that there's more of that happening. If they do find anything that could render you deportable, like if if you have a criminal record in your background, we are seeing that they are issuing notices to appear for that person to lose their green card, and even they are even being detained. So while a vast majority of people will successfully travel, there are going to be more cases than normal where green card holders are caught up in this era where they're doing increased enforcement and scrutiny of green card holders and visa holders. The USCIS released a warning a couple days ago saying green card holders and visa holders are guests in this country. And what that tells me is that they're not only targeting people who are coming to visit temporarily, they're actually targeting people who already have permission to live here. So they're going to nitpick at anything in your background in order to reevaluate your permanent resident status. So can you travel? Absolutely. Yes, you can. However, you need to understand each case is different, and we need to understand what are your risk factors and is there anything of concern in your background that would lead us to advise you not to travel. If you have an attorney, make sure you talk to your attorney. How long to get the work permit with T status? I already done biometrics since November 2024. So first, they're issuing the bona fide determination, and then after the bona fide determination, that grants you protection from removal and hold. It basically gives you some reassurances while you wait, and you can even use it to get certain support and benefits in your state. Then after that, they're processing the work permit. We are seeing a delayed processing in the work permits after the bona fide determination. So we're seeing those work permits coming in far and in between. However, the bona fide determination is still good news for our clients because it means that they get to just sigh relief until they're able to get that approval on the T visa. All right. Good evening. A Jamaican green card holder needs to go to Jamaica, but his passport needs to be renewed. We don't do passport renewals. I am 23 years. Can I file for VAWA? Yes, you can file for VAWA at any age. Keep in mind, if you're the son or daughter of a green card holder and you were mistreated by that son or daughter, then you need to apply under 21. However, if the mistreatment was connected to your delayed filing of the VAWA, then you have up until the age of 25. So you can't reach the age of 25. So you have to be under 25 in that case to file. So if that's the situation with you, it's urgent. Get in touch with us. Police department does not want to fill up the certification for U visa. Can other agencies? Yes, the other agencies may go ahead and do that. So police may not, but other agencies may. Is a work permit the only thing comes with the T visa? No. So not just the work permit, you get status, you get eligibility to apply for your green card, you get protection from deportation, you can live, work, travel throughout the United States and not have to worry. So it's not just the ability to work, but it's the stability that comes with it. It's the fact that you're protected from any kind of removal or detention because you have proof of status. And you also can get additional support from the states because with the T visa, you are the victim of trafficking. And that means that you can seek additional support in education and medical care, in housing necessities, housing, food, things like that. I-130 and I-485 have been in process 174 days now. Should I call? So it can go for a year and a half. So 174 days is not necessarily outside of the ordinary. Good day. When did the work authorization 6 months validation is going to start for paying 550 every 6 months? I have not heard anything like that. No, I haven't heard anything about that one. So yeah. So if somebody's telling you that the government is offering to give anybody work permits for $550 for 6 months, I would be very wary. What's the processing time for a child I-130 that is out of the country? So I would say 9 to 12 months still, and then it moves to the NVC that deals with the processing between the immigrant and the embassy and the petitioner here in the US. All right, so I'm going to answer questions here on Instagram, and then I'm going to head out. VAWA applicable even if you don't have much evidence of abuse and married over a year to a US citizen. Now, what is the evidence that you do have? It's not the quantity, it's the quality. And the quality can even be your statement. If you submit a sufficiently detailed declaration, then you could possibly still be approved for VAWA just based on your statement. So this is where I said, understand that you may qualify, but get in touch with us so we can talk to you and figure out what the best options are and whether it is something you qualify for based on your facts. VAWA applicable even if you don't have much evidence. My husband was married before, and now they are sending letters saying he needs to show proof of the old marriage. Why is this? They have to make sure that the previous spouse was divorced. So your previous spouse, no, I'm not your attorney. I can't give you particular legal advice, but usually where they're asking for proof of the old marriage, they're asking for proof of the termination of the old marriage. If the previous marriage wasn't terminated, then you are in trouble because it means the second marriage is not valid. So get an attorney involved. How long does it take to make a decision after a green card interview for parents' adjustment of status? So I've seen it range anywhere from a day to 4 months. Usually, a green card interview for parents, unless there's something going on in your parents' background, is not too complicated. But I have seen it at a day later getting the decision. Sometimes the officer will, hint that they have everything they need. They're just going to make a decision. So, it looks favorable. Sometimes it goes for 4 months, just depending on if they're doing additional checks. How long does a citizen parent filing for their unmarried child? So I'd say about 10 to 12 months too. Can my US citizen spouse bring okay, so I answered that. All right, please, how long does VAWA take to get approved? 2.5 to 3 years. Can you get U visa certificate from anywhere rather than police station? Not from anywhere, but a designated law enforcement agency. So, it depends. Is this law, and was it a labor issue? If it was labor issue, you may be able to get it from the Department of Labor. So it just depends. I've been waiting for 3 months to get my receipt notice after filing for VAWA. That's happening. They are taking a while to issue those receipt notices. Just make sure that you have tracking to show it got there. And then if it got there, sometimes it's a waiting period because they have it. I have a permanent bar. I'm applying for VAWA, no criminal record. What do you think? I know if you have a permanent bar, it is possible to still apply for VAWA if you can show that the permanent bar is based on hold for a moment. Hold for a moment. All right, excuse me. I just had somebody at the door, so I had to check. Okay, so the permanent bar, you can use the permanent bar to go from, if you can show that you entered the country and it was entered the country for the second time and it was based on the abuse. So if it was based on the abuse, then you're able to overcome that permanent bar. So it depends on what your facts are. Okay. Hi there, Z. All right. Okay, expired driver's license, it's unlikely that they're gonna let you in. So you need to have the passport there. So if you're going to a USCIS, you need to make sure you have a valid current passport, have an alternate ID in case they deny that valid driver's license. I have seen them turn down entrance into USCIS without a valid driver's license. So you need that passport. I do remember one time when a client had an issue like that. I think they didn't have their passport. It wasn't current, and they didn't have identification. They didn't have a driver's license. So we had to take additional steps to prove their identity. So I believe we had to show their birth certificate. And I can't remember the other document, but we had to jump through hoops to prove their identity for them to get in. But hopefully it's not going to be as complicated for you. Can I marry my boyfriend on a B2 visa if I'm there and then we decide to marry? Yes, it's always within your right to get married. The problem is, um, you know, after that, you have to go through the marriage-based process, and it's just getting all the documents ready for that. So this is where you definitely give us a call and we can evaluate everything and make sure it's right for you. Please, what happens to your asylum if it's denied and you still have a pending VAWA? So that means they're still going to evaluate the VAWA. So even though the asylum is denied, you still have a pending VAWA, and they're going to make that decision first. My husband passed away before I-130 approved. Can I get benefits from I-130? Definitely give us a call. You may qualify for widowers petition. That's a separate petition that you file, but you have to file it within 2 years of your spouse's death. So get in touch with us so we can start working with you on that once we verify you qualify, of course. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I will be back tomorrow where we'll go ahead and just talk more about immigration updates, and I'll address your questions as well. Hi there, blessed and grateful. So go ahead. If I didn't answer your questions today, make sure you plan to like, subscribe, follow, so that as soon as you see me come on, you can come on if you're available, and then we can talk through your questions. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.